Welcome back, everybody, to another episode review video for this week's episode of The Walking Dead that aired yesterday on February the 14th. That is right, everybody, Valentine's Day. This was The Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 9, entitled No Way Out. Now, guys, as you guys know, my reviews sort of usually entitle, like, literally a breakdown of the entire episode, like, point to point. And I will most likely hit on everything, but I'm going to try to be faster about it, talk about the main things more, talk about the, not so main things, the sort of just the part that tells the story, majorly really is what I'm going to be talking about. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that. It's going to be a little bit different to what I usually bring here for reviews. It's going to be a little bit shorter. It usually drags on about 30, 35 minutes, something like that. So without further ado, before that happens, let's get into it. So, as the episode airs, we've seen this actually in the first 4 minutes of The Walking Dead. If you guys seen my prediction video, and if you guys watched the link in the description for the first 4 minutes of The Walking Dead, they posted this back on Wednesday. And, you could actually check out the first 4 minutes, which was actually pretty damn cool. So, the episode airs with Daryl, Abraham, and Sasha basically racing back to Alexandria in the truck, and they come across this group of bikers. And basically what happens is, they're a group of bikers that, basically deal with Negan. You know what I mean? They basically tell him, give us all your shit. Your stuff now belongs to Negan, so on and so on. They take Daryl to the back of the truck. And, we sort of get left on that first 4 minutes with the main antagonist there of the group pointing his guns at Abraham and Sasha, basically saying, I'm going to kill you. And he's about to, and then he drops his guns. Okay? We don't see that in the first 4 minutes, but we do, obviously, in the full episode. So he drops his guns, and he was like, I'm not going to kill you. And then he brought them back up and was like, you know what? I am. And then as soon as he did that, the whole thing exploded. All of the bikes, all of the people literally just splattered everywhere. And we didn't really know what happened. They all just sort of spontaneously combusted. And camera basically pans over to Daryl at the back of the truck with a rocket launcher. That is right, everybody. If you guys remember the rocket launcher that Abraham got back, I believe, in episode 6, he got it off the highway, off that dangling zombie on the fence. He got that rocket launcher, and obviously Daryl, he used it to his advantage, and he had to take out that one guy that obviously brought him back to the back of the truck, but he did get cut in the process on his back, but he's definitely going to be fine. So, anyway, moving on to the next part of the episode, which starts to get really, really intense, okay? So, walkers basically swarm the streets, the camera is just behind tons and tons of walkers. We sort of can't see anything for a good, I'd say 20, 30 seconds, something like that. It was pretty intense. It just sort of gives us the idea of, how many walkers are actually there and how honestly fucked that they really are. You know what I mean? So, anyway, Rick's group basically still covered in walkers' guts, makes its way towards the armory. Rick announces a plan to basically herd the walkers away from Alexandria using vehicles from the quarry. Gabriel offers to keep Judith safe in the church while the others go on. Jesse tries to send Sam with Gabriel, but he basically refuses to leave her side, and ultimately this is what I, kind of thought sealed their fate, letting Sam come with them. But anyway, Gabriel actually steps up, basically takes Judith to a church, while they obviously do this and enact this plan. Obviously Judith is a baby, she can make noise, attract walkers. They got to get her out of there, as fast as possible, basically. And Gabriel finally nuts up. And I'm so, so proud of Gabriel in this episode. I do like his character. I'm starting to like it a little bit more. Me personally, I'm not really religious or anything like that. But just as, a survival standpoint, Gabriel is really starting to come together, you know what I mean, as a character and actually realize what you have to do in this world in order to survive. You can't really just depend on the will of God to keep you safe, you know what I mean? And he's starting to really recognize that, you know what I mean? It actually comes into play with something that he says later on in the episode, which we will definitely get into when that, when that comes around. So, inside the townhouse now, Tara insists that they basically rescue Denise from the W-Man, the wolf, you know what I mean? Obviously, the wolf at the end of last episode took Denise, which is the doctor, took her out of the house at gunpoint, everything like that, and sort of napped her, kidnapped her, if you will. Adult napped her, I don't know. Anyway, Rosita basically points out they don't have enough guns to fight walkers outside. They will not be able to do that. Carol wakes up from their fight with Morgan, her fight with Morgan and everything like that. She wakes up, borrows Rosita's gun to sweep the house, just to, sort of check in on everything that's happening in the house, see if Morgan's basically got anything else stashed in that house. Obviously, he helped the W-Man there for a little while, and no one really knew about it, so, she's just sort of sweeping the house to see if he's really keeping anything else there. So meanwhile, the W-Man is holding Denise at gunpoint as they hide from the walkers. Glenn and Enid search a church for supplies to rescue Maggie from the lookout tower. That's their plan. They got finally inside the walls of Alexandria, so that is definitely very, very nice. They're finally in there. Maggie doesn't know that Glenn's in there as of right now, but she will very, very shortly. So that was definitely pretty cool to sort of see them, reunite, if you will. But at the same time, they didn't really get a chance to reunite. You know what I mean? So anyway, Glenn and Enid, like I said, they searched through a church for supplies and everything like that, looking for a gun, maybe hidden in books or, anything like that. Enid opens up to Glenn about her dead parents. They're still here because you're still here. That's what he tells her. And then he also points out that, he remembers and he goes on because of people like, Andrea, Dale, his parents, so many people. He listed so many people. I couldn't even keep track at the time, you know what I mean? So he listed a bunch of his family, which was pretty cool to sort of hear their names mentioned in the show again. It was definitely nice. Anyway, other than that, the W-Man and Denise now in their hiding spot watch walkers stream down the street. He tells Denise that they'll make a run for the lookout tower as soon as a gap opens up in the herd. Glenn orders Enid now to stay at the church while he rescues Maggie, not Maddie, Maggie. And she basically refuses, basically saying, I'm going to follow you anyway. Why don't you just let me help you? So he agrees to it. They find a gun and a bunch of piles of cloth that they're basically going to tie together to help Maggie climb off the platform. So definitely not a bad idea. Pretty good plan. So that's what they're doing. In early exchange now at the townhouse, the W-Man, the reason I'm calling him the W-Man is honestly, just because I really don't know his name, and I'm looking at a sort of a recap to sort of just, go frame by frame so I don't miss anything here on, WalkingDead.com, or AMC.com rather. That's what I'm doing. I'm not taking it word for word, so don't get that twisted. It'd be a pretty shitty review if I just read this, you know what I mean? It's just here to sort of remind me of some things that happened that I don't really remember. He admits to Denise that she was right. He wasn't born this way. I changed. And now I want to help you change. Okay? So Rick's group now quietly walks through the herd. And Sam spots a young boy who's turned, starts thinking about what Carol said. There's going to be monsters all around you. They're going to eat you alive. Everything like this. Really fucked up shit that Carol told him a while back. And that's sort of what got this part to sort of happen. Right? So, yeah. He panics basically and stops dead in his tracks. Doesn't move. It's actually Rick, Sam, Jesse, Carl, Ron, Michonne. They're all walking in one line in that specific order. So Sam lets go of Rick's hand. He's still holding on to his mom's, to Jesse's hand. Obviously, Jesse's still holding on to Carl. Carl's still holding on to Ron. So on and so on, right? So basically what happens, Sam stops dead in his tracks. And basically, he won't move. They're trying to get him to move. They're trying to, wake him up, basically, from his trance. And walkers, unfortunately, attack and tear into Sam because he was sort of crying. He was moaning. He was whining, stuff like that. And walkers just basically eat him alive. And it was pretty gruesome, man. It's a little boy, you know what I mean? So, yeah. Not that easy to watch. Walkers tear into Sam. Basically, Jesse goes into shock. Starts this, screaming. Blood curdling, if you will. And, she goes into shock at the sight of her son being eaten alive, which understandable, totally understandable. They try to get her to move. Basically, Carl's sitting here, come with us, Jesse. You need to let him go. You need to come with us. There's nothing we can do for him. Rick's sort of trying to get her to do the same thing. And, unfortunately, she's sitting there screaming, and the walkers start devouring her as well. She gets bitten. She gets, just consumed in a big horde of walkers. And all the while, she's still holding onto Carl's hand. So she's being eaten alive. Carl is still holding onto her because he can't pull away. She's holding onto his hand. And, all the while, Rick is sort of just going through something right now. You know what I mean? Like, his mind all fucked up. He does care about Jesse. And, obviously the last time he cared about somebody was Lori. And we all know how that turned out, right? So, sort of the same thing is happening again with Rick. And, it's just not good. But he quickly snaps out of it as Carl basically points out to him, that his hand is obviously still, with Jesse. Jesse still has a hold of him. And, he can't take that. You know what I mean? Jesse's a lost cause. They can't save her life. So he ends up actually just taking his hatchet, which is the exact scene that happened in the comic books, which I was really happy to see here in the TV show. Very, very happy and very, very excited to see it. He basically takes his hatchet and just starts hacking away at Jesse's hand, cuts it off, and, Carl is basically saved, from the walkers and everything like that. So Jesse's dead, Sam is dead, and, he hacks off Jesse's hand with a hatchet, and amidst the chaos, Ron picks up Carl's gun that, Carl dropped when he hacked off Jesse's hand. He sort of fell over, dropped his gun on the ground. Ron picks it up and aims it at Rick, ready to kill him. Basically blaming him for the death of his dad, his father, for the death of Sam, for the death of Jesse. He cut off Jesse's hand, everything like this. And sort of, I sort of understand, why he is doing this, because he doesn't really realize that it's not Rick's fault, and Rick is obviously just trying to save his son from dying, ultimately. But he turned into an antagonist, you know what I mean? He was sort of one all along, but at some point you sort of seen the good in him at the same time, but ultimately, this world got the best of him, in all honesty. So, he was about to shoot Rick. Michonne's sword burst through his chest, basically from his back. And it sort of reminded me of the governor type thing, where Michonne, attacked the governor from behind when he was choking Rick. Sort of the same thing. He's sitting there killing Rick. Michonne's sword comes through the back of him. You know what I mean? And Rick was about to get shot by Ron, and sword again went through the back of another character. So, Michonne sort of has this, way of protecting Rick, you know what I mean? And it sort of always seems to play out the same way every single time, which is definitely nice. You know what I mean? Michonne and, Rick, they're really, really close. And, I'm excited to see if there's going to be ever like a relationship develop between the two of them. We'll definitely have to wait and see, obviously, if that's going to ever happen. But I think it would be pretty cool if it did. You know what I mean? In the comic books, he actually got together with Andrea. They really got together. They sort of connected and everything like this. Obviously, Andrea's dead in the TV show. For those of you that don't know, not sure why you're watching a season 6 review, but Andrea's dead in the TV show. So we're eventually going to have to find another love interest for Rick. And, Michonne is part of his group, as was Andrea. So, I mean, honestly, it could go either way. He could just find another person or, just someone else. I don't think he's really that close with anybody else that really saved his life that many times, stuff like that. And in the comic book, Andrea was sort of, doing the Michonne role right now. She was constantly saving his life by doing things. Not with a katana, of course, but with, rifles, guns. She was really good at shooting. Really good shot. So, sword bursts through the chest and gun goes off. Okay, so yeah, Ron's gun still goes off. Doesn't shoot Rick. Rick's completely safe. And as soon as that happens, Rick looks at Carl. Carl turns around and basically says, "Dad." And Rick basically looks in horror as Carl has basically been shot through the eye, his right eye, and he collapses to the ground. Yeah, so again, another iconic scene from the comic book, another iconic scene. Very, very nice. It was sort of still shocking. I didn't actually think they were going to do it. I'm glad that they did sort of stick with that scene from the comic books, because it was such a good scene in the comic books, such a great, wonderful scene in the comic books, and it really helped, Carl's character basically develop, even more than it already is. And I think it will here in the TV show as well. Because let's be honest, Carl's character sort of got boring after a while. I think this is just something to spice it up. It's also something for Rick to sort of look over and, stuff like that. Spoiler alert, he doesn't die. He did get shot in the eye, fall to the ground. He basically scoops up Carl and sprints through the herd as Michonne basically clears a path with her katana. So Michonne's sort of just taking point, literally clearing everything in her path. Literally everything is dead. She's not taking any shit as Rick, basically scoops up Carl, carries him in his arms. And you gotta be strong, man. You gotta be strong to do that. He's like almost 15, if not 15 already. That's a pretty heavy kid to just scoop up like that. So, yeah, like I said, that's kind of impressive. But I guess if it's your son, you probably, really go through anything for him. And even if you can't pick him up normally, you would definitely find a way. There's no doubt in my mind. So anyway, back in the townhouse now, Eugene vows to Rosita that they will fight their way out. She basically says, "We will, not you." The W-Man spots a gap in the herd and sprints to the tower with Denise. He defends Denise with walkers when walkers basically attack her, but his arm gets bitten in the process. So he made it all the way to the tower and could have just climbed up and left Denise as she was getting attacked by walkers, but he came back, guys. The W-Man came back for Denise. And yes, it could just mean that he needed a doctor. It could be just that he wants to basically, do that. But I don't know, man. He changed in the end, guys. He really, really did. So anyway, he defends Denise when walkers attack her, but his arm gets bitten in the process. Denise urges him to come with her to the infirmary. "I'll save your life if you get us to the infirmary." In the townhouse now, Carol unloads on Morgan for basically saving, the W-Man's life and putting Alexandria in danger. She basically says, "I should have killed you." And he basically says, "You can't." You know what I mean? Sort of just all the way leading back to, his Aikido, I believe is what it was called, training and stuff like that, right? So with that other guy, I don't remember what his name is now, so I apologize for that. It's been a while. Episode 4. So, more than 3 months, not just those weeks between episodes, because we've been on break, as we all know. And it was a horrible way. It really, really was. So, Denise and the W-Man now take refuge in a house, and she tries to basically tie a belt around his arm, to keep, obviously, the blood from pumping upwards and the infection spreading, trying to buy him basically a little more time. She points out that he can basically be saved, and she points out that he saved her. You came back. You didn't have to. You could have made it up that ladder, left me here, indicating that maybe he really has changed. You know what I mean? So Denise and W-Man now run outside the infirmary, and Carol sees them from the townhouse balcony and shoots the W-Man in the chest, basically. And as that happens, obviously he's a lost cause, you know what I mean? But he does not have to do this. He could have just went down right there, let the walkers attack Denise, and basically the W-Man tackles walkers, with him. Obviously he's a lost cause. He has 2 gunshot wounds right in his chest. He takes down walkers with him, just sort of tackles them to the ground and screams "go" to Denise before he gets basically devoured. So, again, another thing right there. He didn't come back for Denise that time because he needed a doctor. He was going to die. He didn't have to save Denise. And he did. You know what I mean? He tackled a bunch of walkers, as many as he could, to the ground and yelled at her to go, basically. So I really did think that he changed. And you could sort of see confusion in Carol's eyes as she sort of looked down at him like, did he really just save her? You know what I mean? What did I just do? Sort of look, you know what I mean? It was sort of just like a split second type thing that she went through, but you could see that she was definitely going through something, in my opinion. So anyway, after that, she runs to the infirmary, where Heath, Spencer, and Aaron are hiding out. Rick arrives with Carl. They see him at the window. She basically says, no, we're not losing this boy. They get all ready. They get everything. Rick arrives with Carl and lays him down on a gurney. Denise goes to work on Carl's wound. Rick basically still shell-shocked and still... This really reminded me at the time of Season 3 Rick, when we first lost Lori in Episode 4. Episode 5, we all know that Rick went absolute ape shit, guys. You know what I mean? He took his axe. We sort of see... we sort of see, shading of that in him taking his hatchet out of his waistband in this scene. he takes his axe in episode 5 of season 3 and just sort of walks into the prison and starts clearing out as many walkers in those halls as he possibly can. And like I said, we get to see sort of shades of that with him taking his hatchet. Obviously, it's a little bit smaller, but, he can actually do a little bit more work with a hatchet than an axe, because obviously an axe, a little bit more heavy, you have to swing a little bit harder, stuff like that. You wouldn't be able to recover it as fast. And anyway, he takes his hatchet, he goes outside with his hatchet and goes basically on a killing rampage. And Michonne, Heath, and Aaron Spencer run outside to help Rick fight the walkers. Obviously, Michonne first had to help out Denise, sort of work on Carl's wound. And basically, she said, hurry up, I need to go help Rick. He's out there, he's going to get himself killed. He needs me. And they finish up there. Michonne basically kisses Carl before she goes out. And she goes to help Rick along with Heath, Aaron, and Spencer. So that was definitely pretty cool to sort of see not only Michonne go help Rick like she always does, but sort of the people from Alexandria that we didn't really know had much potential, sort of step up and do something. Heath, Aaron, and Spencer, they were sort of the mains of Alexandria that did really do something, previously. But we get to see other residents of the town, like Olivia and Eric, venture out and join the fight, basically. Rick basically screams, we can beat them. They watch from their homes and stuff like that as they take out the walkers, and they basically need to go do it. You know what I mean? They realize that it's either fight or die. And I'm glad that the Alexandria residents basically finally, snapped and, has taken back their home now. So that was definitely very, very cool to see those Alexandria residents sort of step up, nut up, and, basically get out there and help them fight. You know what I mean? Not just let Rick's group do it all on their own while they sit behind those walls like they have, from the start. So that was definitely very, very cool. In the church now, Gabriel watches the battle unfold. He hands Judith to one of his congregants and walks out with a machete, basically saying, God will save Alexandria because God has given us the courage to save it ourselves. So that was definitely really, really cool to see that. Obviously God's not going to do it himself. But, if there is one, he believes that he has given the courage to save it ourselves. So he goes out there with a machete. Again, really nuts up. Really, really cool to see Gabriel do that. Carol tells the townhouse that group's basically making a stand. Everyone, including Eugene, that is right, joins the fight. Eugene walks out, basically. What's her name? What is her name? Rosita basically says, you don't have to, you can stay here. And Eugene basically proclaims, I do have to. This is something that is going to be talked about for years to come. And he walks out there with machete, joins the fight. Morgan finds the W-Man, who is now a walker, basically saying, I'm sorry, and sort of seeing that scene, echo out throughout a few episodes, that being when he first captured him, episode 4 as well, sort of standing over him and just hitting him with the stick. We sort of see that multiple times with him and the W-Man, which was pretty cool to see that again. Obviously, W-Man's now a walker, so he sort of just, picks him out of his misery, or takes him out of his misery, rather. Enid now rescues Maggie while Glenn distracts walkers away from the tower. Maggie finally cries out, sees that walkers are now surrounding Glenn, finds out that he's alive, and it looks like Glenn's about to be killed off. You know what I mean? He sort of goes through the streets, picking off walkers with his gun, taking out as many as he possibly can. He gets pinned up against a fence. He's literally getting surrounded by walkers, and, Maggie's screaming and crying and everything like this. Trying to get the walker's attention, and it's just not working, and it looks like Glenn's getting surrounded, and he's about to die, and Abraham and Sasha suddenly appear, basically standing on the wall, or rather on top of the fuel truck, and shooting the walkers around Glenn, and that was definitely pretty cool to finally see them, sort of come back. Actually, Sasha, Abraham, and Daryl, they've been out since episode 601. We haven't seen them with Alexandrians or with Rick or anybody like that since that episode. You know what I mean? It's been a while. They haven't been back at Alexandria since that episode. And to finally see them come back, especially at a moment where Glenn was about to die, I'm very, very happy for it, man. Glenn has like 9 lives. He's a fucking cat, man. You know what I mean? Hides under a dumpster, literally gets, swarmed by walkers at a wall, can't move anywhere. Literally ran out of, options, didn't have any more bullets, I don't think. Even if he did, they were all right next to him, so he was about to die. You know, if they were like a couple seconds later, they would have been dead, or he would have been dead rather. So definitely glad that they arrived, you know, in time, obviously. So yeah, they're able to gun down the walkers and save Glenn. Safely inside the truck now, Glenn proposes to Daryl that they use the vehicle to lead the walkers away. Daryl basically suggests an alternate plan. We sort of get to see him use his, you know, handy-dandy rocket launcher again. So the fighting intensifies. Everybody joins Rick's group, everything like that. They're getting pinned up against a wall. Daryl fills a pond in the middle of Alexandria with the diesel fuel from the truck. He then launches an RPG into the water, which basically causes the water to basically explode, obviously with all the diesel in there and everything like that. Big fire in the pond in the middle of Alexandria, which attracts basically all the walkers to the middle of Alexandria. They all enter the, you know, water, all enter the fire, and they all just sort of burn alive. At that point, very, very good. Not only to attract the walkers, obviously to get them off Rick's group, and to also kill them in the fire as well, because obviously fire kills them, guys, if you didn't know. So, yeah, they're going up in flames as they stumble into the lake. The next morning now, the street is littered basically with walker corpses. Group stands quietly on the outside of the infirmary, holding vigil. Basically, Michonne holds Judith inside, rather. And now cut to Rick. You know what I mean? He's lying unconscious in the bed. His eyes all patched up. It's the right side of his face, too. Unconscious in the bed with Rick at his side. Rick basically tells Carl, you know, sort of gives him another speech. You know, he underestimated the Alexandrians and basically said, you know, we can do so much if we come together. And, you know, he finally realizes that now. And he finally sees that Deanna's plan is real. You know, everything that Deanna said is possible because he finally seen what they can do when they all stand and fight together. And he basically claims to Carl, basically saying, you know, I want to show you the new world. And again, another quote from the comic book, which is definitely pretty cool to see in this episode as well. You know, sort of straight from the comic book. I want to show you the new world. And, you know, while holding Carl's hand, Carl's fingers basically grip Rick's hand tighter, obviously indicating that he is alive and he is sort of either conscious now or, you know, his subconscious is just sort of hearing Rick, telling him that he knows he's obviously there. I'm not too sure. We didn't really get to see Carl's face after he gripped Rick's hand. We sort of just seen Rick's face, and then Rick looked up at Carl, and then fade to black, and that was it. So, that was the episode, everybody. Very, very good. One of the best episodes yet, if not the best episode yet. I really, really loved it. It was one of the best episodes we had in a while, at least since No Sanctuary of Season 5. That episode was insane, but this episode, I think, takes the cake, in my opinion. This one was very, very good. And it wasn't even a premiere. It was a mid-season premiere. So, I mean, it was pretty insane. Hopefully we get more episodes like this before the season finale. I know the season finale is supposed to be pretty damn crazy too. So I'm definitely excited to see that when it finally comes out. But other than that, it'll be pretty exciting to see the next episode of The Walking Dead, which will be Season 6, Episode 10, entitled The Next World, which I will be doing my episode prediction video this Thursday on February the 18th. So definitely tune in and subscribe to definitely, you know, get that obviously popping up in your sub box. Obviously come Thursday, if you guys are interested in my predictions, my reviews, definitely feel, you know, so to subscribe basically and support the videos. It really does help out a lot. And other than that, that is pretty much it for now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Tell me in the comment section below what you guys thought of the episode. I thought it was like a 10 out of 10. I can't even rate it lower than that, honestly. If anything, I would be rating it higher. You know what I mean? It was really, really good and really, really intense and just unbelievable all the way through. There's not really anything else to say other than that. So anyway, see you guys in the next video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and bye.